So for the last 2 weeks, I've been playing the new league in Path of Exile 2. Just like everyone else, I got through the campaign, which took me about 9 hours, and eventually made it into endgame. Except this time, for some reason, there's this feeling that's been bothering me that I can't quite put my finger on. And here's what I mean. Usually, you beat campaign, you get into endgame, and you do the same cycle, right? Get used to the new mechanics, see what the new changes are, new bosses, yada yada yada. The community has a very good way of usually coming out with the best strategies and whatever they can come up with to make the league as optimal and as chill as possible.
Someone clipped that. Did I just hit him for 12 million in one hit?
But for some reason, this league, something feels fundamentally different. Is it the campaign changes that have been further streamlined? Some annoying maps have been outright deleted from the game, and campaign has been made to feel smoother and slightly faster than before? Oh my god, honestly, thank fuck they've changed the levers in this area. This was probably my most hated area in this entire campaign. Or is it because of the new league mechanic, Runes of Alder, that introduces a new crafting system that feels very rewarding and simple to interact with, and also overhauls a very old Path of Exile mechanic coming from Path of Exile 1 known as Expedition. Maybe it's the brand new quest system when you get into the endgame that makes it easier to get into all the endgame mechanics such as Ritual, Delirium, Abyss, Breach, followed by the brand new reworks that introduces new content, new drops, new bosses to all these mechanics. Is it the new fortress and the new seemingly endless Atlas tree with 300 points that are all allocatable and juice your mapping and more than ever before? And that's not even counting all the content that I haven't even begun to sink my teeth into, like the Atlas Masters that are basically ascendancies for the Atlas tree, or the dozens of new crafting mechanics and all the cool secrets people are just starting to find.
He is unquestioned, you resolve unbreakable. Are you ready?
All these changes independently coming together feel amazing.
A tiny bit of volleyball, which is very Italian to have with lentil soup.
But I still couldn't figure out for the life of me why it felt so different this time around. So I had a bit of a think, and I went back to my Diablo 4 experience. Now, if you happen to watch my Diablo 4 video, you'd know that I actually enjoyed myself this last season. But the one thing you need to realize as well is that I was very starved for ARPGs. Strictly speaking, Path of Exile. So anything that fed that craving was a life-saving experience. Now, as I said, that isn't to say that I didn't enjoy myself. In fact, it was quite fun. But there is something fundamentally lacking in Diablo 4 as a gaming experience that somehow both Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 can always fulfill whenever a new season comes out. And the more I played Diablo 4, and the more I thought about Path of Exile 2, the more I came to one singular realization. Division. No, not that division, I mean the vision. If you remember, at the very beginning of PoE 2, one of the recurring phrases and memes were the vision. What's the vision? The vision is basically this idea of where Jonathan and Mark want Path of Exile 2 to go. Essentially, they want it to deviate from what we know in PoE 1, in the sense that they want combat to be more meaningful and for fights and bosses to feel less brain dead compared to PoE 1, where you basically just juice your character, you left click, right click, turn on your buffs, and just do that ad nauseum. Now, as you can imagine, if you came from Path of Exile 1, this was a very worrying prospect for the game, because a lot of people that hedged their bets on PoE 2 that came from PoE 1 were expecting an engine change with a different story set in the future, but the game still felt like Path of Exile. I was one of these people. I love Path of Exile 1, and the prospect of the game becoming slowed down and just not feeling like Path of Exile scared the shit out of me. And if you watched my content at the very beginning of Path of Exile 2, you know I memed on the vision a lot of times, especially very early on when the game and the mobs were still very fast paced, but the character was significantly slower. I remember remember making my first poison character with Toxic Growth when Toxic Growth still had that animation where the character fucking jumped and did like a 1080 backflip that could get cancelled out of air and you just died. You just get stunned out of it and you die. That felt very bad and it felt very not Path of Exile to me. And it was incredibly frustrating. Now, 2 years on, I sort of get it. I've gotten used to Path of Exile 2 now and this whole idea of the vision, because what the vision means now to me is that it's very clear they want it to be Path of Exile at its core, but they don't want it to just be a copy and paste of Path of Exile 1. And 0.5 clearly shows us what they want with this game. New boss fights, the new mechanics, the way the mechanics are different from PoE 1, and just the way you interact with the game now is all starting to flesh out and give us a clearer picture in what they want this game to be. And quite frankly, 2 years on, they've sort of won me over. The reason I say sort of and not 100% because obviously there's still some kinks that need to be worked out. I still think the combat, despite feeling very visceral and satisfying, it still feels very limited. Builds aren't as free and customizable as I feel like they are in PoE 1. So for example, I am playing a Werewolf Poison this league, which so far I've done all content. I just killed the Bodak yesterday. Amazing boss fight, by the way. But unfortunately, every single time I've made this build, I've had to rely on 3 skills to make it work, which is Lunar Assault, Cross Slash, and Pounce. Without these 3 skills, the build simply wouldn't work because A, there's barely any skills for Werewolf. I think it's 5 in total. And B, you just don't do damage. It's very simple. You need to use the full kit of Werewolf. You can't just full on go balls to the wall with like Lunar Assault and be like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna do this build. I'm just gonna focus on Lunar Assault, make it as strong as possible, and base my build around it. It's simply not possible. That followed by the fact that Poison has been triple tapped nerfed this time around with Plague Finger, Toxic Growth, and Poison Burst getting basically shoved down into the wall. Also, the Poison Ascendancy was also basically nerfed as well, so that's 4 taps, because Toxic Growth has been limited to 6 pustules at most. Poison Burst damage was nerfed, Poison Ascendancy, Poison Duration was nerfed, and Plague Finger, which I think is the biggest travesty in all of the nerfs, had cannot inflict elemental ailments added to it, which basically removed a lot of the survivability and damage options for my Werewolf Poison, because now you can no longer have ailments, which means you cannot chill, you cannot ignite, and you cannot shock, which is where a lot of the damage possibilities came for Werewolf Poison. That is all gone. I am running an original Sin variant, but it is a lot harder to fix than when I had Plague Fingers, but I am getting there. After all of that, you might be thinking, well, maybe you're just not that good at builds, you know? If you can't kill the boss in 2 microseconds, then you're just bad at the game. I have a counter argument to that, actually, to basically say, I may be better at the game than you. Now, bear with me. One key difference that PoE 2 has, that PoE 1 doesn't, it changes the combat and turns it upside down and allows bad build makers like me to still succeed in the game is the dodge function. In PoE 1, how far you made it into the game had 2 scales that you needed to basically go balls to the wall on. Either you're giga tanky and you can basically outlive any boss mechanic the game throws at you, or you were giga bursty. So basically, the boss is dead before he even gets to do his first attack animation. Or he gets insta-phased, so, for example, like Maven, before she can even start doing anything that isn't the puzzle of the memory game, she's dead. She can't summon anything, she can't do any of her annoying laser attacks, she just dies. This game essentially allows a second group of people to exist within the player base. In PoE 1, the people who are basically amazing at math and numbers and figuring out the intricacies and formulas of the damage and mitigation calculations were always at the top of the game because they could look at the numbers and basically make it so they could optimize based on those numbers. The second group that exists in PoE 2, thanks to the WSD movement and the dodge mechanic, are essentially what I would call the equivalent of sports people in school. You had the very smart people who weren't the greatest at sports, and then you had the opposite. The very good sports people who had fucking no clue how to count 1 plus 1. It's funny I'm making this comparison because I was good at neither in school. I was the language guy. I was very good at all languages. I hated sports and I hated math. But here we are. But this game, essentially, as long as I can pick and choose my battles, know what I need to dodge and avoid, as long as I can at least do a couple thousand damage, I can beat the game. Now, of course, there are people that disagree with this because some people think that there should be a hard gear wall that you need to hit in order to progress past a certain point. But do we really? I think the worst part of Path of Exile 1 is essentially if you don't know what you're doing and you're a new player and you don't know how to fix your build, that's the end of it. You literally can't progress. You won't be able to do any Uber. You'll be lucky to do Pinnacles, and you effectively have to stop. Which some of you might agree that that's a good thing. I personally think it should go up to a certain point, but it should not make the game downright impossible. There's mechanics that can help you through fights. For example, I can guarantee most of you don't know that you can be immune to damage for most of the Arbiter of Divinity fight. Yep, that's right. The Arbiter of Divinity has a mechanic where he summons divine power, and as long as you get those little divine power balls around the arena, you get 4 seconds of immunity to all damage, and these balls appear basically throughout the entirety of the fight. If you're following any of the meta builds, you probably have no fucking clue what I'm talking about, because you get into the arena, you snipe/monkey slam it, and it just dies. The dodge function now allows you to basically live through the boss fight even with subpar DPS, and allows you to engage with what I would hope are mechanics that the developers intend you to engage with. Which, when you make a boss fight that has such cool fucking soundtrack and such cool design, such cool voice acting, and an amazing arena, I think it's sort of a shame that you can't just enjoy the fight, because you either want to kill it very fast or just ignore its entire existence. And unfortunately, you can't really ignore its entire existence in PoE 2 because defensive layers are currently dog shit. And if you're not building anything other than 20,000 ES, you're probably just gonna die. After all this yapping and basically glazing the ever-living shit out of this league, what is the point of this video? Well, the point of this video is that I realized truly how lucky we PoE enjoyers are to have GGG, people who currently run this game. GGG is probably the current best modern day developer in terms of community engagement, listening to community feedback, on top of making a top-notch video game. In any other circumstance, I would say making a top-notch product, because if you've ever looked at something, for example, like the Diablo podcasts, quote-unquote, they talk about Diablo very much as if it's a product. When you listen to GGG, and you listen to Mark and John speaking about Path of Exile, you can tell these guys are very passionate about their game, and you can also tell that they play their game. They don't pull punches when it comes to criticizing stuff in their own game that they have made, and I think that's such a breath of fresh air in the current modern day gaming climate.
The temple ruined Christmas for me. Like, I don't want I don't want another freaking that temple destroyed me. What is that, a temple? Zoom in on that. Well, sorry, we're being shown a
from chat.
Okay, so
all right. This is the okay. We have been told that there's a T1 issue with the temple.
Temple shenanigans T1 issue after interview.
Now, with all of that said, new Path of Exile 1 League has been announced, or at least hinted, and while I am excited for that one, I'm not gonna lie, I am now more excited when I hear about any news to do with Path of Exile 2 more than 1. I guess they finally won me over and they've got me hyped for PoE 2 and seeing where it goes. There's the upcoming ExileCon that I really wanted to go this year. Unfortunately, it's been out of my budget right now, because the tickets are like $350, but maybe eventually, one day, I'll manage to attend one and, you know, meet all the cool people and see all the little cool events that I know they're very known for doing inside the convention. And maybe one day, you know, I'll meet all the cool creators that have inspired me to basically do all of this. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Love you all. I'm gonna try and focus on making my videos more creative and rather than sticking to a schedule. Because again, with having basically full-time working hours, things don't always go as planned during the week. Sometimes I'm too tired, sometimes I work more than I should, sometimes I'm given extra shifts. So my editing and content creation hours are cut drastically, and I feel like forcing myself to release a video every Saturday is happening to the detriment of my videos, unfortunately. Now, whether a YouTube algorithm agrees with that or not, we'll have to see. Like if you liked, comment, tell me what you think and how you feel on PoE 2 and GGG. Subscribe if you liked it, and as always, I'll see you sometime next week. Love you all, take care, bye-bye.